Hi, welcome along to World Cup Daily, the show that talks about the World Cup and Arsenal transfer news. Of course, today there are no World Cup games. There were none yesterday, and I'll tell you what, I was a bit bored yesterday with the lack of World Cup games, but it all kicks off again tomorrow when we have the first of the big semi-finals. Brazil taking on Germany. It doesn't really get much bigger than this, and it's going to be a massive game. And the talk all around at the moment is, how much are Brazil going to miss Neymar? Now, we know that he's been their talisman player. He's been scoring the goals. You know, he's just an inspiration on the field. But I've kind of got the feeling that, unlike a lot of other people, what a lot of other people think, I've kind of got the feeling that other players are going to step up. I mean, I did a podcast yesterday for the AFTV podcast. I was on that with various people, including guys like Tim Payne, etc. And seemed to be the only person who thought that Brazil could win that game. Now, I think what Brazil will probably do, they'll probably bring in either Willian or maybe even Bernard will come in, go out wide, and they might push Oscar infield a bit for Oscar to do some of the creating or that sort of work just behind the main striker. And we know that Oscar can do that well. And you've also got Hulk who'll be able to get more involved. So other players have really got an opportunity in this game to really step up. I also think that when I look at the games, Brazil have had a lot of hard games. I've played a lot of very good teams on their way to this stage. I mean, I know they haven't looked brilliant. They haven't looked Samba-style Brazil, but they've been functional and they've been getting over the line. And they've beaten good teams. They've got past Chile. They've got past Mexico. They've beaten Colombia. That's one of the best teams in the tournament. So, you know, it's going to be a really tough game tomorrow. But I do think that Brazil do have the players to get them across the line. Thiago Silva out. They can bring in Dante, who's the big centre-half who plays for Bayern Munich. So it's a very strong squad. And I wouldn't write off Brazil yet. I think there are players in that squad that can replace Neymar. Not as good as Neymar, but they can come in, they'll play in a bit of a different way, be less reliant on one player. And as we saw in the semi-final, Neymar did not, in the quarter-final, sorry, Neymar didn't have a very good game, but other players stepped up, like David Luiz, etc. And do not write off Brazil just yet. That's my opinion on it. Although Germany, they've been looking strong. This is a massive game for Mesut Ozil. You know, he can really stamp his authority on this World Cup with a massive big performance in that semi-final, and it's going to be a really, really interesting one tomorrow night. You just cannot call it at the moment. Don't forget one massive factor, or shall I say two massive factors, is the crowd, the Brazilian crowd and nation, all behind that team. And secondly, the referees. Now, nobody can't tell me that referees are not influenced by that, you know, really pumped up and enthusiastic crowds and the passionate crowds. It does affect referees. We've seen it in all the other Brazilian games, and you can be no doubt that Brazil will get the majority of the decisions in that game. So it's going to be a really interesting one. Let's get into the Arsenal transfer news. Listen, transfer-wise, it's still all about Alexis Sanchez. We've been told now that it's been reported both over here in the UK and even over there in Spain that Barcelona have agreed a fee with Arsenal, thought to be around about £34 million. Now, it's all down to apparently Barcelona trying to hold back a little bit to find out if Juventus will come in and match or even up the bids, because obviously they want to get as much money as they possibly can for Alexis Sanchez, because they want to buy Suarez. Suarez is going to be very expensive, you know, probably about £70 million they're going to have to pay Liverpool. So they need as much money as they possibly can. They've raised money off of selling Fabregas, as we know, 35. If they can get another, say, 40 million for Sanchez, that was all the money that they're paying for Suarez is covered. That's basically how they're looking on it. So they're trying to hold back a bit to find out, are Juventus, who are very interested as well, are Juventus going to come in with a higher bid? But a lot of pointers now pointing towards the fact that this is a deal that can definitely happen. Arsenal are in a very strong position, and apparently, as I said, Barcelona have agreed the fee. It's all about, is another bid going to come in? if that other bid doesn't come in, he could be on his way to the Emirates. And I know that a lot of Arsenal fans will be overjoyed at that, getting another world-class player in the team. I mean, if you've got the pace of Sanchez and Theo Walcott in that team, it's definitely going to do some damage in the Premier League next season. And how good will that be for Mesut Ozil to create for those two guys? I mean, it's very exciting. Matthew Debuchy, of course, as we all know, he seems to be the worst kept secret around. That's looking like that deal will get done sometime this week. It's almost certain that Matthew Debuchy will be signing for Arsenal. He has emerged as the #1 target in that right-back position for Arsene Wenger. And unless there's any major hiccups, that deal should happen this week. And another interesting one is that Arsenal are back in for Lars Bender. Now, Lars Bender, the holding midfielder, plays for Germany, Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen, and he also plays for the German national team. You're not seeing him at the World Cup because he got injured just before the World Cup, but he's a top-class holding midfielder. He's imposing. He's a young player as well, 25 years old, I think he is. And listen, he fits the bill again for that position as defensive midfielder, which Arsenal so desperately need. Now, remember, Arsenal have previously got in for Bender. I think they offered about 15 million before. That was turned down. It's going to be over 20 million, I would have thought, to try and get him away from Germany. And Arsenal are very keen on him. They've been keen on him now for a long time. Could this be a deal that's going to happen? Especially when we've been reading that Marca, which is the newspaper based over there in Spain, they've been reporting that Real Madrid are keen to hold on to Sami Khedira. They don't want to sell Sami Khedira. That's despite the fact that it looks like they're going to be signing Toni Kroos from Bayern Munich. The sounds out of Madrid is that they still want to keep hold of Khedira, even though they're buying Toni Kroos, although they would listen to what they call an irresistible offer for Sami Khedira. Now, are Arsenal prepared to make that irresistible offer, which may be, I don't know, £30 million plus, basically paying over the odds for him? This is probably why you're seeing Arsenal now saying, right, well, listen, we're going to take another look at Lars Bender, see if we can bring him in, because, you know, that again would be a very good signing, very good option for Arsenal. And as I've explained when I've been talking about these transfers, listen, you'll always find clubs linked with a lot of targets because you've got to, as a club, put it out there that you're looking at various different targets. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket, because if that doesn't happen, then you're in trouble. We saw that last year with Arsenal with the whole Suarez thing. So they're looking at Lars Bender. They are still looking at Khedira, but Real Madrid very keen apparently to try and keep hold of Khedira, despite Arsenal, you know, really wanting the player. One last one to tell you about. This is a real left field one. This is a player called Ahmed Fafti. He's 29 years old, plays for Al Ali, and he's a right back. Apparently, he's supposed to be having a trial at Arsenal. He's an Egypt international, and he was on loan at Hull City last season for about 6 months. They didn't take him on. We're giving him a trial. Listen, you never know. He'd be a very experienced player. I'm not sure. I mean, how does this relate? Because if we did get Debuchy, what this indicates to me is, suppose if they did bring him in, are they then maybe also thinking about sending Carl Jenkinson out on loan? Because, you know, and again, we sort of spoke about this a bit in that podcast last night. You know, that would Carl Jenkinson benefit from, like, saying, being out on loan for a year? I mean, if Arsenal are bringing in Debuchy, then they're looking at a experienced right back coming in on loan. I don't know. That sort of gives me a little suggestion, a little inkling that maybe Arsenal are saying, right, let's then send Carl Jenkinson out on loan for a year to a club so that he can get all the experience and all the gameplay, so that we can then bring him back and eventually have him as our #1 right back. I don't know. That's just my feeling on that, because I'm kind of surprised if they're buying a right back in Debuchy, why they need another right back on loan. But we'll have to watch this space on that one. Let's get into some of your comments. Easy Treasy says, we don't need Sanchez. That's what he says. We don't need Sanchez. I think we do. We do need Sanchez. I'd love to see Sanchez come into the club. I think Sanchez can be converted into a similar player like Aguero or Suarez, and I see only good things from bringing in a world-class player like Alexis Sanchez. G1 says, "Hey Robbie, are you confident the Sanchez deal will get done? Francois Pina has said Sanchez deal is close. Listen, it is a close deal, but as I said, and as many fans say to me, until they see him at Emirates holding up that top like that, saying I'm a player, we can't say for sure. But listen, there's definitely strong movements on it." Dick Patel says Sanchez, Ozil, Cazorla, Walcott, Ramsey, and Wilshere. Oh Lord, he says. That's how I'm looking on it as well. That would be a brilliant attacking force. Although the holding midfielder position is also very important, but if we can get that done, then we can turn our attentions to that. HBK Gunner says, "I don't think Juventus will buy Sanchez unless they sell Vidal or Pogba, which I don't see happening." Well, apparently they are considering selling Vidal, and again, that would raise loads of funds for them. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. Dick Patel also said he heard that Manchester City are wanting to bid £50 million for Sanchez. I think that's a bit mischievous. Pramod G says Sanchez is a waste of money. I don't think so. He's a world-class player, and I think he'd be a great signing. Sabu says, in a weird way, I can't either. I think it's too good to be true. He's saying he can't believe that Arsenal are going to sign Sanchez. Again, probably because we're not used to seeing these big marquee signings being gotten over the line. So, you know, and it's just going on and on. Everybody's very, very enthusiastic about the Sanchez thing. I mean, G4MEZVAFC says, if Arsenal gets Sanchez, isn't there still a need for a top-class centre-forward at Arsenal? Now, I was saying last night that I still think, even if we did get Sanchez, I still think that Loic Remy would be a very good signing for Arsenal as well. We've only got, in effect, two strikers at the moment. We've got Olivier Giroud, we've got Yaya Sanogo, and that's it. Remember, Bentner's now left the club. Parker's left the club. So if we brought in Sanchez, say that fits the bill as another striker, I still think we need another striker. We're battling on all fronts. We want to defend our FA Cup. We've got the Champions League. We've got the League Cup. Listen, we need a full complement of players to fill those positions. Victor Alexander says, Arsenal fans need to calm down. Make your judgment after August the 31st. Let Arsene Wenger get on with the transfer window. I'm confident he will have a good window. Okay. Previous years has not proved that, so this is why fans get excited. This is why fans are very apprehensive. Also, Piradou says Victor Valdez to Arsenal would be a top signing on a free. Yeah, you know what? I've never been a massive fan of Victor Valdez. Experienced keeper, yes, but I've never been a massive fan of Victor Valdez. I think a lot of the hype is more that he's played for Barcelona more than the fact that he's a great goalkeeper. Somebody else at 88 says, I don't think Bender will come. He said himself that he's not ready for the step up. And let me get one more in. Ahmedid Mood 40 said we should get Serge Aurier. He can only get better. I don't think it's going to be Aurier. I think it's definitely looking like it's going to be Debuchy coming in, and we're going to listen. Things are hotting up. We're going to see over the next few days. We've got the Puma thing on Thursday, Puma launch, etc. I think we're going to hear about maybe at least one name this week, which is probably going to be Debuchy, and we'll get a clearer picture of what's going to be happening with Alexis Sanchez. Thanks for watching World Cup Daily today. Don't forget to keep subscribing if you subscribe to us here, Arsenal Fan TV, and keep watching the World Cup Dailies. Thank you very much for your support and the amount of people who've been watching the show live as well as watching it later on. We really, really appreciate your support here. And thanks for all the comments. I'll be going through them today. Thank you. Here, this is World Cup Daily, back at the same time tomorrow.